And we're live! Hello, word nerds! Happy Sunday and happy Mother's Day for everybody out there, whether you have any kind of biological children or non-biological children, or if you have pets or what have you. I hope all of you had a...
Plants, yes.
Lots of plant moms and plant dads out there. So, welcome. I hope you all had a nice day, or if you don't celebrate that at all, I hope you had a nice Sunday. It's been kind of like weird and rainy, at least in my part of the country for a while, but today was nice and bright and sunny, so feels like some kind of good omen that spring is here. But today we are going to be talking about friendships and how to write good ones. I mean, all of us here are friends, but I haven't based any characters off of anybody in this metaphorical room as of yet.
I exclusively based my characters on you guys.
You said you have or you haven't?
I said I exclusively based.
Oh, okay. Excellent.
Well, I'm probably one of the ones that dies off. Like
you were kidding.
I came very close to making someone Megan-esque captain of a starship once. Just tiny ginger starship captain.
Yeah.
See, like there's a whole section for inspiration right there. Is your friends? I know it's like a kind of a thing of people like liking to write people or characters based on real people that they know, but then there's like that whole thing of, you know, your friends come to you being like, this person has the same like hobby as me, like, is this me? And then you're like, no, like I don't hate you, or like I don't really want to throw you out an airlock, like it's not like that.
You're inevitably going to steal scraps. I feel like I almost never, I think, going to steal, unless you're, I don't know, I don't ever steal like a whole personality and be like, I'm inserting this person into my book. It's always just like, oh, so-and-so does this, and I really like this as a character trait for this character, you know, that type of thing.
See, if you really want people not to ask if they are certain characters, just actually put them in as like super background characters. Be like, oh no, you're not that one because you're this background character.
That is smart.
That's a good idea, yeah. Well, it's kind of like inevitably, like Aaron said, you know, you kind of take scraps from just people around you, and of course your friends are probably going to be closer to you, so you know more about them and you can more easily integrate something that, you know, if you have a friend has a habit of, you know, twirling their hair, or if they always have a catchphrase, it's going to be much easier to take that and put it into something, because to you it makes that person more believable. But regardless, we I know I have some questions, and we have some just some things. Please leave any questions you have in the comments as well, because I know writing we did a chat on writing family, and I feel like that went really well. So this is going to be like the kind of part 2 companion video to that. So please leave anything there. So my first question is just kind of, you know, I was thinking about it, is do you have a favorite friend or a favorite or fictional friend? I should
Rank
your favorite. This, yeah, right now we're gonna vote.
Word nerd is your favorite.
Yeah, which word is your favorite friend?
Please don't if you're in the comments.
No, don't do that. We're not. We're not starting that. We're not starting our own Hunger Games.
I cannot deal.
So say, what is your favorite fictional friend or fictional group of friends?
I knew this was coming, so I've been like scrolling through my Goodreads trying to think of one.
I just finished reading, and my brain immediately forgot the title, of course.
Throw out keywords. Well,
Guess the book.
What's the cover look like?
Oh, I have it on my shelf. Where the heck did it just go? Oh, We Hunt the Flame, and then the second one, We Free the Stars. And they call, I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, but they call their friendship group like the Zumra or the Zumra. And I really loved the way that they kind of all played off each other, but they're like a friendship group. And they emphasize that a lot, how they're all like really tight-knit friends and how they started enemies and came together in order to like pursue the same goal, and then became like really fast, loyal friends. So I enjoy a good friendship group element.
Yeah, a good like ragtag crew turn friends turn found family. Like, it gets me every time.
I keep getting hung up because like the friendship groups I keep thinking of feel more like found family.
Found family, yeah.
Like there's a lot of crossover.
But like family is a different dynamic of like the people you kind of not necessarily live with, but your family, versus like friendships are great as well. There's as their own thing.
But like with friendships, it's like these are the people you choose. versus families of people you're born into and
But found
sometimes
family.
tolerate. Yeah, but I mean, like, found family is still friendships. It's just like even closer a lot of time. In my
I think a lot of books, you are like, the arc is friendship to found family.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to bring this up a little bit later, but it is kind of it's kind of hard to figure out when there's like friend characters, because a lot of characters that start as friends don't stay friends. So, or a lot of characters that are introduced specifically to be like a love interest or, you know, an antagonist. So like having a true book friendship is actually a little bit more rare, because I'm looking through my shelves too, and I'm like, oh no, that turned into a love triangle, or like, what about that? Oh no, that, you know, that person's, you know, not doing whatever. So it does, like, it's a little bit harder than you think.
I feel like there's often friends and friend groups that are just friends and friend groups in like contemporary stories, but also like none of them are really standing out to me. I feel like, I mean, there's maybe a couple, like there's like the friend group in like Simon versus the Homo Sapiens Agenda, like they really stand out. But a lot of times there's just kind of like that like token best friend character, and I feel like a lot of the contemporary best friend, especially like when it's a girl, like they tend to be like really similar characters. Like they're really outgoing, like way more outgoing than the main character, pushes them to,
I feel like we get the like lesbian best friend or bisexual best friend too. It's like the author is like, here is the representation you all wanted, but she's also in the best friend role, so we can push her off to the side for the majority of the book, you know?
Well, the thing is, like, there's friendships where like the friends are side characters and the story is the main character's journey, and so like they're not gonna be main characters. And then there's friendships where like all of like Raven Cycle comes, like they're all POV characters. They're all getting time, and they all have distinct arcs.
I feel like those are harder to find.
Those are the ragtag group of people feeling like they're all going on the quest together.
Does anyone remember the name of the roommate in Fangirl? She's jumping out as me as like a good friendship example.
Reagan.
I like her a lot. Yeah.
They're very different from Kath, but like really brought out the best in each other,
and she felt like
awkward at first.
Like a very well-rounded person, as opposed to somebody who's just there to be like a crutch or a opposition for the main character or the best friend. That's like, it's not as relevant, it's not as bad as it was anymore. But I feel like when YA first was like really booming and everyone was writing it, it really felt like there were a lot of best friends that were like the, you know, kind of like bitchy cheerleader or like the shallow hair twirling one that like didn't really have a lot of that didn't really have a main purpose aside from contrasting, like, look how cool the character is, look how non-girly the character is, and she's smarter than her friend, and like all, like it was kind of almost negative, I feel like. So
I really enjoyed, this is one where the friends were side characters, but I'll Be the One by Lyla Lee. It was so cute and so good, and then like everyone who was in her friend group was just like so supportive. They all had distinct personalities. And yeah, I love it because they were such supportive friends. It didn't feel like anyone was there to like be part of the problem that the main character is going through while competing in this talent show to become a K-pop star. It was so good. I loved it. I just read it like last week.
I definitely want to get my hands on that one. It seems really cute.
Yeah, it was so cute.
So I'll also say, I know some people like don't like her, so that's fine if you don't. But I'll say Cassandra Clare does a really good job with both family dynamics and friend dynamics. And I know a lot of her characters also like turn into POV characters eventually. But like I'm thinking right now in The Dark Artifices with Emma and Christina. Like I love their dynamic and they're so fun. They're supporting each other and like they get their own stories, but ultimately they are best friends. So like I think that she does those kind of connections really, really well.
Yes. And like I don't like in the original series like the whole like Clary and Simon best friend who's in love with her dynamic. I don't like that very much. But like later when their friendship is able to like develop more because he's like not obsessed with her anymore. I think that's a good friendship. You're right. She does write really good ones.
Yeah. Even like Clary and Isabel. Like I think at first they were like kind of pitted against each other, but then they're like, nah man, and then they become friends and they're just like this dynamic duo, and I love that.
I was definitely initially very bothered by the Isabel Clary thing because she instantly looks at her and she's like, she's hotter than me and therefore I hate her and she's bitchy. And I was like, cool, one of these.
Oh, 2008.
Yeah, that's very much what it felt like in that kind of arena with YA. It was like the girls are all naturally going to be enemies and competing for boys. I guess I'm not fully sure what the thought behind that was.
Yeah. I do want to bring that up later, but right now I'm looking at the discussion right now. First of all, Kayla says hi. Kayla's here asking, what's the distinction between a fictional friend group and a found family? It's a Venn diagram that is almost a complete circle.
Good question. Yeah, I think like we were saying before, the journey from friends to found family happens quite often.
Like the thing that happens in the book is kind of what makes them found family. Like found family to me feels like the people that you'll never get rid of. Of like, even if you drift apart or whatever, you always come back to each other, that kind of thing. Probably because you've gone through something incredibly traumatic together. But friendship is more what most of us experience as friendship day to day.
Yeah. And I think in a lot of found family stories, at least one of the characters, if not a lot of them, don't have like a biological family, or they aren't close to their biological family. So a lot of times that's a factor in it too, that like this becomes their family.
Yeah, it kind of almost like replaces what they lost or didn't have to begin with. This seems to be the difference. And like I had friends in high school that they were friends, but we don't call each other. I'm not going to hang out with them at Thanksgiving or whatever, like. So there are definitely different levels of friendship. And
you're not going to go on a quest to save the world.
Not going to go to Mordor.
Sacrifice your life for them.
Yeah.
You guys would be my quest friends. For
Yes.
Hold on. Yeah.
Oh my God. wait, we're not best friends. We're quest friends.
Yes. Amazing. Can we get friendship necklaces that say
quest friends? I kind of love that. All right. Nobody steal that. All right. You heard it here first. May 9th, 2021. Word nerds.
A book I thought of also is Raybearer by Jordan Ifueko. Tari Sai's friendship with the Crown Prince is so good. And I think it definitely fits that mold of like, I don't think they're quite found family just yet, but I suspect by like book 2, they definitely will be. It was great. Also recommend that one.
Missy Kate says that one of her favorite friend groups is Frodo, Sam, Merry, and Pippin. Obviously, a classic. And sorry, Emma, I totally just cut you off. What were you going to say?
I was going to read the same comment.
Oh, great. Okay.
Great friendship group.
Yeah. And then Griswold says that their favorite fictional friend is the best friend Megan from The Call by Peter O'Gillen, which is a very good, creepy fairy horror novel, which we all love.
Yes. Yeah.
I've been scrolling through like every book I've ever read, and the 2 main characters in Codename Verity, because like they never become found family for obvious reasons, but they're friends.
Julie and what's the others? Madeline?
Yeah.
Such a good friendship.
Actually, right now I was kind of talking about this before the live chat started. I just started reading Fable by Adrienne Young, and I really like Willa, and I think that her and Fable are going to become friends. Like it has that like the setup of a found family dynamic, but right now they're all just like kind of on the edge of just being friends where I am in the story, and I'm just like, this is great, and I really want you guys to be close. Almost. All right. Well, we talked.
I'm just definitely going to want to write like the quest friendship thing. I'm like, that's what I want to do next now.
I need to like find somebody who does jingles and just have us get a jingle that's quest friends. Fiverr might have something like that. I don't know.
I remembered one. I really love Darius the Great is Not Okay. There's a really good like development of a friendship in that story with the main character, and I can't remember the friend's name, but I really loved that. I feel like I was like really struck by. I feel like it was a friendship that like boys don't always get to have in fiction. Where it felt like it never had to be like there was never like any like bravado in it or anything. Like it was just like a genuine like friendship where they cared about each other, and I felt like that was like refreshing to read, I guess.
Do you guys prefer to have some kind of like friends to lovers or like friends to enemies, or do you guys just like kind of either writing or reading just straight up friendship?
Scrolling through everything is dawning on me how few just like friendships there are.
Yeah.
Like most
Mhm.
become something else.
Mhm.
And like friendships are very important too. Like it's, and we've had the conversation a lot just in the general YA sphere about like books about friend breakups you don't see enough because they're so.
I have a recommendation for this.
Oh,
Are we gonna get to that? I'll save it.
no. Keep, go. I was just like, I do too. I just remembered it. No, go.
Yeah,
go for it,
it's I think it's either When You Were Everything or When We Were Everything, by Ashley Woodfolk. I read that one this year, and it was so good. Yeah, When You Were Everything by Ashley Woodfolk. It chronicles a friend breakup in past and present day. So it's got like 2 timelines, and you're seeing like what led up to it, and then also the fallout. It's so good. And it like analyzes a friendship in a way that like you don't always, and you see the characters like trying to make new friends to replace this friendship that was everything before. It was so good.
I have to add that to Goodreads.
Yeah.
Sounds really good. Okay.
It's really interesting that isn't really a thing, because like I definitely like, even the title makes me remember like friendships I had as, you know, growing up all through high school, and like as a young adult having these like friendships that were like all consuming, and then kind of just trailed off almost. Like nothing hit the fan, nothing fell apart, like we just went different ways type of thing. But like looking back, you're like, that's weird that happened, and like, you know, that we were like a huge impact on each other's life. So that's like a huge traumatic thing. Like it's kind of weird that there isn't more stories about that. I don't know.
Yeah, I've read one, but I am struggling to remember what the title was because it's been a while.
I wonder
If I can recommend one, is from As Far As You'll Take Me by Phil Stamper. And that one it's about a boy named Marty who goes to London and to live with his cousin because he recently came out as gay, and his parents are don't accept him. And it's kind of like it starts off and it ends off with him being really close to this girl at school, and she's the only person that knows. And it kind of goes through their friendship because he starts really looking back on like, how's she really been treating me like a friend, and like, what am I putting into this friendship? What am I getting out of it? And then, of course, there's like friend drama that I don't want to spoil. But I thought that was a really good book, and like kind of the way it ended was a lot of like looking back, kind of on that what you say, Erin, how like some people just make a really big impact in your life, but you're not always necessarily going to be friends with them for the rest of your life, and that can be both good and bad.
Yeah, I'm thinking about how, because like in high school, I feel like those moments are very dramatic, but for me, the ones that like really stick out are a couple of online friendships that just kind of disappeared from my life. And that felt very strange, of like people I knew for years and drifted apart or whatever. And that is definitely not something I've ever seen in books. Of online friendships in general aren't super covered.
That's really true.
Oh, there's a really good online friendship in I Wish You All the Best by Mason Deaver. I think we did that for book club last year.
Yes.
Or 2 years ago. What year is it? I don't know.
Yeah, the friendship.
Yeah.
I saw this comment by Missy Kate saying, you guys always have good book recs in all your streams. Would really love to see them in the description after the stream so I can come back to them. I'm going to try and collect them now. If you guys have mentioned one that you recall, put it in the private chat and I will collect them.
Cool.
I don't know why Emma's.
We lost Emma.
My husband is outside the window in front of me. He just like lifted my son up, so I just saw like a person's face.
Happy Mother's Day.
It scared me.
Bless.
So you just saw a baby rising up.
I was just out of my peripheral vision. I just saw like a person appear in the window, and I was like, "Oh my gosh!"
And then surprise, it's a baby. It's your baby.
He's a peeping Tom.
Oh, bless. Oh, actually, Crazy Foxy brings up a really good point.
Really interesting question.
Yes, it seems like middle grade books are more interested in exploring friendship than YA, and that is that because the time we're about 16 or 17, we have done the friend thing, are now interested in exploring love themes.
Interesting. That's very true.
I think mostly it's like what is marketed to people.
Yeah, I think it's what adults think that YAs are more interested in.
Yeah.
And there's also the like very general romance tends to sell And like, so you just go that route's kind of safer, but.
But that's very true. Middle grade is a lot. And a part of it is because like as someone who writes YA and middle grade, you're strong, well, not even just strongly encouraged, but you have to mostly stick to friendship. Like if you go the romance route, it's like holding hands or exchanging glances. Like middle grade is very G-rated. So it just, even making choices as an author, I will often just be like, I'm just going to stick to like a really close, deep friendship because there's not too much point in putting anything else in there, you know? So.
Yeah, I think this is really interesting because in YA, it does seem like there's this dichotomy of like, you're going to have really good friends or it's going to have a very large romance subplot. But in like the adult romance genre, friendships are like super important to the plot. Like you can't have this like overarching romance plot without also having friends usually who are helping the main character or characters out. And so I don't know. Like,
it's always interesting. Like I'd love to see something in YA of like the intersection of friendship and romance, of like having that best friend and then your first love and how you're balancing those two important relationships is something we should probably see more of. And
I also feel like in YA, it tends to, the main character either already has an established group of friends or they are the loner. And then usually when they are the loner, they either make a friend or it's just the love interest. So like, I think it's easier, quote unquote, because I just I went through this like weird phase where I read a couple of contemporaries back to back. Very strange. Don't know what's wrong with me. I'm back on fantasy though with this one. So, but like that whole thing of it's, they already have a friend group. They've known each other forever. They've known each other since the first day of 8th grade. So like, it's a lot, I guess, easier to like not have to develop friends that much. And so they can focus on the main character or, you know, the new love interest or whatever. But I did just finish Cool for the Summer by Dahlia Adler, which I will also
read that one.
really good. And I have to say multiple things on this book, which I'll try and like keep the story short. First of all, friendships in that book were really good because they weren't necessarily super great friendships, but the way that she developed them and like truly went through the steps of what would happen if one of your really good friends, or if someone you think is a really good friend, like betrays you. What happens about this friend who's not really interested in the stuff that you grew close to for the first time? What happens then? What happens when you're starting to think about college and maybe going away for, you know, the foreseeable future? So it kind of, and like, what if they aren't really good friends after all? And like, so it kind of goes through those stages, which I thought was really, really good. And then the second thing is I really like the voice because it is exactly a whiny, privileged teenage girl.
Another one I actually read fairly recently was Kate in Waiting by Becky Albertalli, which is about two best friends, one male, one female, and they both get a crush on the same guy. And then, and like the whole book is very much about how Kate doesn't want to lose her best friendship with Anderson, and things are getting awkward and all of these things are kind of changing in their lives. And so that was like, it looks like a romance on the outside, but thinking about it, it's very much a friendship book.
I'm thinking about the horror genre. I'm reading an arc right now of When the Reckoning Comes by LaTanya McQueen, which comes out August 3rd. And it's really good so far. And it has one of my favorite horror tropes, which is we were best friends as children, but something messed up and probably supernatural happened. And now we're coming back together because that thing is probably going to happen again.
I love
it. So it's got like these three best friends. Yeah. So there's these three best friends in it who like something happened when they were children. And now they are back. They're all coming back together because one of them is getting married. And it's a horror. And I'm so excited for once they're all back together.
What's it called? When the Reckoning Comes?
When the Reckoning Comes, yeah. I'll add that to my list to put into the description at the end of this.
Yeah. That reminds me of like one of my favorite friendship tropes, which like I cannot think of a single example of right now. But I love stories kind of like that with like characters who like used to be childhood friends and for some reason like they're brought back together Where like in contemporary, it might be that like one of them moves back to town, or I don't know, in some way they like now they hate each other or something, and they have to work together on something. Or in fantasy, other reasons. But I really like that when you get to kind of like explore that dynamic of like we used to be friends and now we're not, and like why, and like dealing with all of that.
Actually, that kind of like leads into something I wanted to also discuss here, which is just talking about like what writing a good friendship can offer the reader. Because again, a lot of the times, at least in early YA, has been changing now, but in early YA, like we said before, the main character, the friend is kind of there just to be there and just feed the plot to the main character when is needed. But I think now there has been that rise of actually writing good friendships, especially like female friendships, and now we need better male friendships. And if you like a whole group of queer friends is coming up now too. So like why is writing friendship characters good? Like what can it offer the plot line that maybe a main character or a love interest couldn't?
I think on the one hand, like having friendships is like it serves the purpose just to make your story and your world feel like more real and your character feel more real, because most people have friends. And some people don't. But most people have like that one really close friendship or a group of friends. And so it just helps that like the character feel more relatable and feel more real in the first place, aside from like other purposes that it could give, like the plot or the character or whatever. But for me, it just makes them feel more like real people to have friends.
Yeah, and I feel like, lots of books have love interests, but that's like not everyone is interested in a love interest. Not everyone wants that. Not everyone will have that in their life. But at some point in everyone's life, like you have a friend.
Hopefully.
Often multiple friends. Like I don't think as humans we really get along well when sequestered from other humans. And so like everyone's going to have a friendship at some point. And it's that there's so many facets of that we're just writing is always trying to explore some aspect of the human experience, and friendships have so much of that to look into, and to just kind of beef up a plot line and make it more believable.
There's also something to be said for, especially in YA, having the friends be the other characters that the main character can relax the most around. I feel like when you're a teenager, it's very much, oh, my family doesn't understand me, and then you're putting on the best version of yourself for the love interest, whereas your friends are the people that can see the hot mess version of you.
Even as an
probably
adult.
more fun for readers. Oh yeah.
Okay, well, like that, that being said, what advice do we all have to make a character or make a friend character more relatable than instead of just a plot device?
Definitely giving the friend their own motivation. Like, even if they're not necessarily a part of like the main quest, like they should still be a fully well-rounded person. Even if their motivation is something simple like going to college and getting a degree in X, Y, or Z, there has to be some kind of personality and driving factor to them that makes them...
that advice about like remembering that your secondary characters feel like they're the main characters to themselves. And I feel like you see that a lot in like books about friendships where someone's gotten lost in a love interest or whatever, and then you come back to the friendship you've been ignoring and they've had this whole like side adventure while you weren't paying attention kind of thing. So
yeah, I always appreciate the friends who like call out the main character, like, I have issues too, and you never like ask me about them. You've been so wrapped up in your own problems. I think that's really realistic, because that does happen sometimes in a friendship. Like one person kind of like dominates having like the issues or whatever, and they kind of ignore the other friend.
Yeah, and to have that other friend like react like a normal person to that is very realistic, because it's like, especially if the friend isn't thinking to like check in on the other person, like, hey, how's it going? Like, I know that when your brother got murdered because he threw himself in front of me, you're hurting too. He wasn't just my best friend and love interest. Like, this is definitely directly from the book I just read. So they need to have realistic reactions and be affected by the plot just as much.
Also, I think something. I was going to say, I think something fun to look at in like the character development stage, whether it's like a plotting stage or you are in the process of writing the story and you're taking a minute to look at your side characters and try and figure out what their deals are. Look at like what your main character wants, and does their friend or their friend group want the same thing for them? And if the answer is yes, what's their limit for helping the main character get those things? Like if your main character is willing to just like sacrifice their life for this thing, their friend probably doesn't want them to sacrifice their life for that thing. So how far are they willing to go to help your character get that thing? And like, at what point would they speak up and be like, you need to take a step
Makes me
back?
think of Harry and Ron in the final book of Ron's kind of, nope, or the movie sticks out, but yeah. Ron's kind of like, I'm done, it's enough.
It's too much, yeah.
I think
And having characters, I was going to say having characters have different goals or even like contrasting goals is often very interesting.
Yeah. I was going to say, while like making sure they have their own like, distinct goals and personalities and all that is really important. For me, it's also more believable. I need to like understand why they're friends, I guess. Because I think sometimes I've read books, and I think this happens most often in contemporary for me, where like friendships are a little bit more of a focus, but it'll be like these two characters who are just so like complete polar opposites, which like it can happen sometimes, but I think especially by the time you're an adult, and even kind of like in high school, I feel like you tend to kind of pull away from some of those relationships where you're like, personalities are really different, where you're like, you just like want to go party all the time and I want to like stay home and watch a movie. Like that friendship is not going to like last a long time until like we're now like 30 and we're still friends even though we don't want to do the same things on a Friday night or whatever, like how is that friendship? Like why is that friendships? If they are that different, why is that friendship stuck around? Like did they like murder someone together so they're like stuck as friendships now? Like like so, because I have read books like that before where I'm like, I just don't understand. Or like, I think a lot of times that happens in like movies, like rom-coms or something, where like the friends are just so different that I'm like, it just seems like they annoy each other. Like, why are they friends?
Or the friends are just like,
to like
it's completely self-centered friendship where the main character is like, you're like, why are you friends with her? She's terrible.
Unless you're gonna explore like, we've been friends for forever, but actually this person just like really annoys me because we're so different. That could be interesting, but I need to like believe that they're friends and understand why.
Yeah, and they just need like one common interest, even like you could be polar opposites, but they both love playing D&D, and that is like how they come together.
I love the comments we have right now. Kayla says, friends that slay together, stay together. And Grisel says, I like this story. Emma's brainstorming right now.
All free to take my ideas.
Murder is always the solution.
No.
Wait, no, I mean, writing.
We have not done a murder together.
Isn't that how you guys met each other? Oh.
I don't know, Megan and Kyra. I don't know what's going on between those two.
And it was the vlog edition, but
yeah, I feel like that happens a lot with the love interest with like opposites attract. I'm like, no, you guys are totally different. Like, I don't want someone that's totally different.
I don't want to hang out with someone who's my opposite.
Yeah, right. And I feel like all my friends, like, we have stuff that is different than each other, but the majority of things that we like overlap. That's why I'm friends with them. But that's also a really good dynamic if you are. I see this a lot, actually also in Cool for the Summer, but Foul is Fair. There's a couple of other like friendship group dynamics that I think are really good because it points out the toxicity of that friendship, or the idea of like, oh, I'm only hanging around with them because they're popular and, I don't want to be alone, or, oh, we've
been friends since we were small children, so like we just have to keep being friends.
Yeah, exactly. But then usually that person's plot line is that they, don't become friends with that person anymore. They become their own person and they don't need to be in the shadow of that friend or what have you. So like there is good tension there, but it does have to be intentional.
That can definitely make for an interesting, because that happens in real life where you're like, I've been friends with her since childhood, but I just realized our friendship is completely focused around her and she's incredibly selfish. And why am I still hanging out with her? Right.
Just like Emma.
Yes, I'm so glad you're like, giving me the strength to break up my friendship with Megan.
Yeah. Wow.
Everything is
Wow.
out
What have I started? Wow.
If you're new here, Emma and I have known each other since we were young children.
We are just friends of convenience.
Yes. We did live together in college.
And now you're forced to be interacting with each other.
Now we do
You're in a
live
blog
chats,
group.
so we're stuck with each other.
Stuck with each other.
Never ends.
I just forced Aaron to be friends with me. So
Yeah. You just showed up. No way.
Those are the only kind of friendships forced friendships are like the only ones I stay.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Our moms were like, you guys are going to be friends. And we were like, okay, we will adapt our personalities to be the same.
We are now friends. I am not exaggerating when I say that my friend Rebecca and I, Kayla in the chat, we went to her coffee shop where she worked and we were like, you're going to sit with us. She was like, okay. No, you're going to sit with us. And then we made her be our friend. So sometimes that does work. It's a mild kidnapping,
We had a question from N. Griswold. Where did that go? Oh, do you have any tips for distinguishing between personalities in a friend group?
I would give them all at least one thing that they really, really like that nobody else in the group likes. Or like isn't interested in. Like have one of them like really be into true crime podcasts and like want to talk about it, but then like the other people will be like, yeah, that's cool, and like move on.
God, she's so obsessed with murder.
God,
She won't shut up.
I was thinking about that a bit, talking about like when we're talking about friendships of like you don't understand why they're friends anymore, but there's also something to be said for like it's kind of boring to write. If you wrote us, we're just like 5 book nerds who hang out on the internet. So you have to like really distinguish us if you're digging into the book.
Very
I know how I would
loud.
Or whichever one of you is writing a book about us.
Yeah.
What did you say, Emma? Say again.
I said for whichever one of you is writing a book about us.
How do
to really distinguish the personalities.
How would we distinguish us? What would our one trait be that you do? I want to know.
But yeah, and I also think within a friend group, that there's different like friendship connections within that. Like if you have 5 people who are friends, their friendships are not all equal with each other. Like you take this group on the screen, like Megan and I have been best friends since we were 6 years old. Like that's going to be a different friendship. And like 4 of us have been word nerds longer, where like Rachel joined later, or like Aaron and Rachel knew each other before Rachel was a word nerd. So like that changes
real life
the dynamic. And so
Yeah.
like thinking about those dynamics and like which member of the friend group is the one that your main character like will go like cry on their shoulder, and which one is the one that like when they have good news they want to like go and party with, like they're gonna
Which
have
one will bury a body with you?
Yeah, exactly. So think about,
I
like,
just realized if I was writing us, we don't need both me and Megan. Like how many 5 Boston people do you really need?
You would combine
There can only be one 5'2" redhead.
5 bangs.
well, this is unrealistic.
And there can be some overlap. Like there could be 2 who you would go to, or like it could be the whole friend group is like their thing is that they would, bury a body for each other, for any of them. But it's like it doesn't have to be this is this character and this is the sassy one and this is the grumpy one.
Sassy one.
Like Kayla says, what's a little murder between friends?
Yeah.
And I also like to think like if there's a friendship group, like who has dated who in the past? Who has what history?
Who has
Who
crush
has-
on who?
Yeah. Who
Yeah.
has fallen out before? Who has betrayed who?
Who has
Like-
hidden beef? They haven't brought it up
Exactly.
yet.
Yeah, like when
Oh.
2 friends get together, do they gossip about the third one, or is that not kosher
Yes.
in that group? Stuff like that. Well, Kelly has just revealed herself.
Kelly's like, no one is safe.
Actually, Crazy Foxy brings up a good point as well about a friend can unlock story tension that a family member or romantic interest can't, mostly because about themes like caring for someone without expecting anything beyond friendship in return. And I think that's very true. A lot of like family connection has that burdened is a strong word, but like it has that like, expectation where
There's a weight
romance.
to it. Yeah.
Yeah, we're like family legacy and that kind of thing. Whereas romance is very much like the romance. You're expecting like the relationship to grow or go
You're there to
farther.
get in each other's pants, so that's
exactly. But friendship, you're probably not trying to do that unless you are, which like go for it if you want to. But
benefits.
yeah, it's usually like a little bit less, a little bit less intense, something like that.
And with the varying levels of friendship, like in a romantic relationship, regardless of like how physical the romantic relationship is, it's expected that if you fight, you'll find a way to make up. And with certain levels of friendship, that expectation is there too. Like if you disagree, you'll make up. But it is like a gradient. And it's like, at what point is it, well, if we get into a fight, we're definitely going to make up, versus if we get into a fight, let's cut our losses.
Yeah, that's really, and that's so interesting because that ends up being really awkward in real life and really great for fiction, because in a friend group you're going to have different levels, and there's the one friend that she sends that drama bullshit your way and you're like, no, you're not worth it, and then there's the other friend that is worth it, or you are in such a deep friendship that you are going to mend fences, and then you have this awkward imbalance in the group if you are done with one friend and the rest of your friend group isn't, that type of thing. Like,
Megan and Emma break up. I don't know what we're going to do.
How do you get in the divorce? Because I don't know.
Yeah, like I
I'll
actually
just like pretend it hasn't happened. Like pretend
We'll never tell.
Well, we've already established that Kelly and Megan, like one of you is replaceable.
Yeah.
So like, you're basically the same person, right?
I have two redheaded coders.
I'm the tall one though, so like that's my defining feature.
You're the tall one.
Yeah.
Megan not the murdery one, because that's kind of always
Megan's the murdery one. I'm the tall one. Actually, no,
Kelly
Des is
is
the tall
more
one.
I think of Kelly as the organized one.
Yeah,
True.
see, you need
Also
both
the,
of
like-
us because I know a lot about death.
Aaron's the
Kelly
witchy
keep
one.
us together.
Also,
Helen's
Kelly,
the student.
Kelly is like the organized one, and also the one that's like, calm the F down to me a lot. I feel like, or like think this through type person.
Crazy folks, because none of you are replaceable.
Oh,
Apparently, we don't feel that way about each other.
In next week's episode, we will be voting off one of the words.
we say battle royale, like
yeah, they proposed
in the
a
quarter
video.
that was the plan.
Well, I have Pumpkin ready to go. Like,
Yeah.
she can replace anybody. It doesn't have to be Aaron, but she can replace anybody.
She does have red hair.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh dear.
Yeah, no, I feel that again, like good for fiction, not good in real life. Like I did go through kind of like a friend breakup with a giant group of friends where like one person and I were just, we couldn't do it anymore. And that really like split the group, and I'm not friends with a whole lot of people because they still support this other person. And I'm like,
hard.
Yeah, so it's like that was like a big moment in my life. And I think like that's almost not necessarily more important, but like that's definitely like a large moment that doesn't revolve around romance, because I think a lot, especially in YA, to like bring this around kind of back to where we were talking about like YA is more romance based instead of friendship based. Like there are other things in your life that you can do, like other large events that are not just about getting a boyfriend or having your first kiss or breaking up for the first time. Like there is a lot of other kind of dynamics in your life that you can focus on. And also other people, I think Megan mentioned this too, like you don't always want to read about romance, but we'll all have friendships, and like there's so many different kinds of dynamics between a bunch of people together.
Especially now is like a lot of us are reading more adult, like getting into reading more people that are my age group, and like most of us here tonight are married, and like my romance life is not that interesting book wise, but friendships, there's still so much potential of like, so seeing people in a similar place of like I have something stable, but like I don't know, finding a new best friend would be an exciting story, or those kind of things of like there's so much more room in adult for non-romance stuff that you just don't see very often.
Yeah, and I don't think it's that it's not there. It's just it's not there in the quantity that other topics, I guess, are.
Well, again, that like pushing, like marketing, pushing what teenage girls like, right? Which is always romance and always just teenage girls.
But I really like that what Kayla says. Friend breakups are way more devastating than romantic breakups, in my opinion. And like I fully agree with that, because I definitely remember the like breaking up of my friendship group as opposed to like, you know, past relationships or whatever, because like I had people literally in my wedding that I don't see anymore because the friendship group kind of like shattered at one point, because of, you know, one particular person who will not be named. But like that was a really intense, difficult time, and it had nothing to do with romance, but these were people that I was expecting to like have be my found family for like probably, I thought, the rest of my life, you know. So that's just as traumatic as, you know, the boyfriend that you dated for 2 years or whatever. Like it's on a level, in my opinion, as well. So I don't really, it would be good to have more books like that.
Yeah, and Griswold said something interesting. It's only difficult to cut off a friend/group the first time. After that, no skin off my teeth.
Have you had a lot of friend breakups? I'm so sorry.
I could see though, like once you have done it one time, or once your character has done it one time, it's like, well, I survived it that time. I could do it again. Whereas when it's the first time, you've never had to get over.
I read it more as like coming back to what turns out to be kind of a toxic friendship again and again. Of like you cut them off, but you kind of end up friends again, like an on again, off again romance, but a friendship. Of like, this is not good for either of us, but we just keep kind of falling back together.
Yeah, for sure.
Point. Yeah, I definitely think that like seeing characters establishing boundaries in toxic friendships and stuff as well is a very interesting dynamic in fiction, and because we see that in real life as well, when you realize this person is toxic and, you know, it's not worth having them around even if we've been friends for a really long time, you know.
Yeah, I think even in non-toxic friendships, like boundaries shift over time, you know? And I think that's a really interesting thing to see characters navigating, is this like, well, our friendship was this, and we're still friends and we still care for each other, but now it's more this.
I heard this a long time ago. I do not remember from whom, but they said, they're joking about like, oh, being a kid is really hard. But it is, because everyone thinks like, oh, being a kid's so easy. You just run around and like eat snacks and like do whatever. But like being a kid is really hard, because this is your whole life is just firsts. And that includes stuff like the first time you drink orange juice. Oh, wow. But it also includes stuff like the first time you get betrayed, you know, the first time that your friend does something that you don't like. And it's like, those things are like such a big deal, because that is the first time you're experiencing it. And like, so yeah, being a kid is hard, like growing up is hard. And so if like, I think it's all like those kinds of themes should be more explored in YA, because, and even somewhat I say in middle grade, because like that's the audience. Like, sure, we're all in our like 20s and 30s, but YA's audience is for teenagers. And like the same thing with, these like becoming of age books are really popular, because it's people going through the same thing that someone who's reading it's going through. I think like friendship dynamics, especially in high school, when you go to high school and suddenly it's all these kids that you don't know, it's all these friendship dynamics that you don't know, and you're like trying to fit in, you're trying to like find new friends, or maybe your old friends are getting new friends. Like that is something that really has a lot of potential to be explored.
Yeah, thinking about, because we've talked a lot about like the negative side of like friendships breaking up and stuff, but like taking the flip side of like that excitement of finding a new friend, of like first of like, oh, I want to be friends with the person, I don't know how to do it, and like the extra awkwardness of it in adulthood of like, I don't know how to be friends with a person, but like having kind of that friend crush on somebody of like, we would be best friends, they just don't know it yet, I don't know how to tell them.
I definitely have like commented on people's videos on TikTok being like, you're really cool, do you want to be friends? Like, yeah, let's be friends.
It's like, so hard as an adult, you're like, this is so awkward, what do I do?
Yeah. I keep bringing it back to adult books, because that's the age category I've read a lot more of this year. But there is still, I feel like, so much to explore as far as friendships are concerned. We've talked a lot about YA today in particular, because that's where you get a lot of coming of age stories. But in adult too, you know, like the struggles of making friends as an adult when it's not necessarily your parents are taking you to church and so that's where you're going to meet your friend, like, or you're meeting them at school. Now it's like you're an adult and you're trying to find ways to slide into people's DMs and stuff and become friends, or like realizing you've messed up in a friendship as an adult is pretty difficult because you tend to think of yourself as like, well, I'm an adult. I don't mess up as much anymore.
I'd like to see more adult fiction explore like making friendships, because I feel like a lot of the adult fiction I've read, the friendships are like people that like they've been friends since college or they've been friends since high school or childhood or whatever. And I'd like to see more people like developing friendships as adults. Because that is, it's so hard. They're like the only friends I've made as an adult, post college.
Yeah, it's like I remember moving to a new town a couple of years ago, and it was literally just like I did it, and a bunch of other people did it too, where you just went on Craigslist or whatever, and you're like, yeah, hi, I just moved to this town, I don't know anyone. And it was almost like friendship dates. And I remember having a few awkward ones with girls that I like sat down and had coffee with, and I'm just like, oh God, like we have nothing in common, but neither of us know anyone in this town. Right. And it was just like a few more awkward dates until I found, I stumbled across a book club and I was like, hey, these are more my people than this Kayla, Aaron, that's how you get murdered. Yeah.
For me, like one of the few friendships I've made as an adult, other than the word nerds, is like I had like at when I first moved to Florida, like I started a new job, and like I had this one coworker that like we worked a lot of shifts together, and it was like after like 2 years of working together or something, it was like, hey, like we should like hang out on a Saturday and play board games or something. We talk like it took so long for us to both get to the point where it was like,
I feel like some of you have an advantage in this now though, because like watching my sister make mom friends in this new town that I've lived here 3 years now and didn't think I was staying long enough to try to make friends, so never bothered. But then Casey's just like picking up all these mom friends anytime she like buys something secondhand from someone else with a toddler. Like we have this thing in common. We are friends.
Well, Ed Griswold also said that like it's really easy for them to make friends, and their sister says they can make a new friend anywhere. I think it depends whether you're like more introverted or extroverted. Yeah, my best friend is such an extrovert, and she like no matter where we go, I just assume it's going to take us an extra 20 minutes because she talks to everybody. If we go to a shop, it's not just like, oh, here's your coffee, great, thank you, like have a good day, and like leave. It's like, oh, like where are these beans from? And like I love your hat, it's so nice. Like it's just like all this stuff, and like she can make friends with a lamppost.
That
like,
is like Rebecca, which Kayla was joking about how we kidnapped her. That was 100% Rebecca, because like because if Rebecca's like, we're going to be friends, you have no choice. You're friends now. And she will literally kidnap you. Like, cause we go like in, descending order of like super extroverted, introverted. And then Kayla's like much more introverted than even I am. So Rebecca just kind of drags us around and is like talking to everyone, and we're kind of like, yeah, okay, hi, like, trailing behind her. It is the friendship group dynamic, though. We're fine with that because she's the one that introduces us to people and makes new friends, into the group. So yeah,
it's kind of the same with me. Like I have my two best friends. One of them is the extreme extrovert. And then the other one, Kayla said I'm an indoor cat. That's exactly it. I love that
description.
Yeah. My other friend, who is also a huge introvert, we became friends because we worked at the same bookstore. But she was hired a little bit before me, but I didn't know that. I thought that she had been there for a really long time. And we were both so intimidated by the other person that we didn't talk for like 2 months until finally like one day, I don't even remember like what it was. I think we just like slowly like started to realize that we liked the same things. And then one day she like invited me to her birthday, like out of like nowhere. And I was like, you like me? Like, okay.
Me.
Now we're good friends.
I have been told that I have major RBF. And so people have repeatedly told me, I thought you hated me. And it was like, no, my face just does that. Like you have no control over it.
I do think that's something you can play with in a friend group, is like, you might have a lot of the same interests, but like, what's your extroversion to introversion? How outgoing are you about these things? How often are you wanting to spend time? Like, are the extroverts in your friend group always hanging out because they always want to be hanging out versus the introverts who are like, I like you guys, but I don't want to go out right
Okay,
now.
but like also
I want to be invited.
I would
Yeah.
I was like, you better invite me or I'll be jealous and angry.
Yeah.
I have a really good. I just finished reading "Victories Greater Than Death" by Charlie Jane Anders, which is like this new sci-fi one. And the best friend character, whose name is Rachel, is an artist who is super introverted. And at multiple points in the book, she's like, I have like run out of people juice. Like, I need to go and be by myself. This is too insane. Like, I will be back later. And then she just like leaves for like chapters at a time, which I guess is a good way to like not have to write a character now that I think about it. But it's just like, so like, she's just like, I
very
can't do this
interesting.
anymore. Like, I've talked. I need to go sit down by myself. I will be back. And I'm like,
I
love
am
that.
introverted, but
Right.
I don't do that around my friends. They do not drain me the same way that strangers do, which is very interesting. I don't know.
There's also a
maybe
level
other
of FOMO for me, I think, of like, you guys can have fun without me.
All I
I'm
can think
thinking
of is your
about,
wedding. Is your
I
wedding
know, the wedding.
Kelly and I were sitting on the stairs. We want to go to bed, but everyone is still talking. I
stayed up till,
can't
like,
leave.
3:30 in the
I can't be the
morning or
one person to go to bed while everyone else hangs out.
Yep. I think
That was
we
all of
were
us.
all up way too late just because we were all having too much fun and no one
Game
wanted
of
to.
chicken.
Yes.
Who's gonna crack and go to bed first?
Joe Catherine mentioned or said no one has mentioned the secret nerd nods that adults give each other to feel out if the other is a fellow nerd / geek.
It's usually one of those like, hey, I like that Star Trek pin you got, and they're like, yeah, that's cool, yeah.
Right now it works.
If I'm wearing Harry Potter stuff, if I have like the Slytherin scarf on, I'll get the "what up" nod from like, and I'll be like, "Hey, Harry Potter fan."
And like one good thing about like masks is like people will have like a Star Wars mask, and you're like, cool mask. I like Star Wars too.
Hello, I also like Star Wars. Let's be friends.
Exactly. It's like it's really you go through this like big thing, like big arc of like having friends where like in kindergarten you're basically like, I like Cocoa Puffs and Barbies, like do you want to be friends? And then like when you're in school you're like, yeah, like we're friends, we're cool, like hey, yeah, we sit next to each other in biology and like chat about our weekends. And then like back to when you're an adult you're like, I like Star Wars and like Netflix. Do you want to be friends? Like
Oh,
Barbies.
I just desperately want TikTok to like set me friendship up with anyone who's like FYP is similar to mine. Like I feel like TikTok knows who my best friend is and just has told me.
And
Just gonna
Netflix.
tell you.
Yeah, or like when you're seeing someone who's out in like at the local bookstore or something and they have a book up and you're like, which one is that? Are you reading something I also like to read?
I have come so close to like accosting strangers on the bus if they're reading like a fantasy book. I want to like nudge up and be like, "What are you reading? Is it good?" I like fantasy too. Like, so
I feel like
close.
when I worked at the bookstore, that was so much easier because if I saw somebody holding a book I liked, it was so easy to be like, "Oh, I love that book. Like, you're really gonna like it." But I don't know. I feel like slightly more awkward doing that. But I don't know, whatever. But I have made friends at the bookstore just by doing that, like, and just chatting. And then I'd have my regulars, and they come and be like, "What are you reading now? Like, this is so cool. We should go get coffee sometime when you're not working here." It was like, "Yeah," and I'm like, you know, it's great.
There's this one English professor at work that I want to be friends with. And, I was like doing library instruction for her class, and I like made a reference to Song of Achilles because I was reading it at the time. And like afterwards, we were talking. She was like, "Oh, are you reading Song of Achilles?" And I was like, "Yeah." And we like talked about it.
Oh my gosh.
I was like,
Nice.
Yes.
Cool, she'll know this book.
I friendship you as well to make that happen. Amazing.
All right. Well, I did have one question we can probably end this off on because we have been going for about an hour. We've kind of talked about all like just best friends or just having like a giant group or like whatever. So like, do you prefer yourselves writing a giant group or like found family or a big like friend dynamic, or do you like having just like the best friend and that's it in your own works?
I like short groups, not huge ones, but like 3 or 4 characters or something like that.
Yeah, I like those. Just the best friend is so much easier to write.
Yeah, I was gonna say I really like doing that, but that's like a revisions step for me. It's like beefing up the friend group because it's always like, oh well, there's the one friend who I actually know when I'm doing the first draft, and the rest of them I still have to figure out.
I definitely am a huge family, like found family fan. So definitely the bigger friend group with the the close-knit friends towards the end of the book.
I think in actual writing, I do it about half and half. Like half the time I'll do just like a really close friend, and half the time I'll do a group. But the group is fun. It's harder, but it's really fun.
Yeah. Especially once you know all their voices, it's like, oh, now I can play with this.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Casey McQuiston also has really great friend dynamics in their books.
Oh
I
yeah.
was just thinking about that.
I wanted like more books about like the friends in Red
Yes.
Do you guys
And,
come up with the friendships and relationships first before you do like the plot, or do they just kind of happen?
Yeah, it depends on the book, but it usually comes pretty early on for me.
Yeah, I usually start my manuscript like with a friend dynamic in mind. I don't usually like add people later.
Interesting. I can't remember what I do right now. Like it changes every time.
Yeah, I think I usually have the gist of each like friend that's going to be in it. Like I know this person is going to be there, but my understanding of their involvement with the main character usually changes a lot over time.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I'm just typing out the other book title to put in our chat. You guys, if you're watching this, at least once we're done this video, or if you're watching this like post stream, there's just going to be this long list of books for you to look up. You're welcome.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm starting to work, or I'm working to get all of those over into the description right now. So,
Thank you, Megan.
no problem.
All right. Well, if you have any comments, what have you, please leave them down below. Oh, we're getting some happy Mother's Days in the comments. Thank you. That's great.
Moms are magical creatures. Fully agree.
Yes, agree. You guys do a lot. I just have a cat, and even that's a lot. And she can't even talk to me. Well, she can yell, but you know.
That's all my child can do too. It's okay.
All right. So I guess we'll wrap this up right now. It's been about an hour, and I'll let everybody have their the rest of their evenings to themselves and their parents or their mothers or your your family. You say whoever and your friends, whoever happens to be around, or your pets. So thank you all for coming. As always, we will have a video on Tuesday and Thursday this week. And oh man, what's our live chat next week?
Right in.
Oh, write in. Wonderful.
Write in.
We'll have a good write in next week. Get all those words done. I start my new semester this coming up week, so I'm sure I'll have homework by then.
Yay.
Yeah.
Oh God. I got an intensive writing summer, so that should be fun. All right. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already. We're here throughout the week, and all of our socials are at WordNerds Vlog. Thank you all for being here, and we'll have a good night. Bye.
Bye.